Niantic force updated everyone's avatars a few days ago, and players were not happy. I ran a poll recently on the channel, and out of 2,000 people, 91% were not happy with this update. Now, despite wanting new customization options for years, Niantic decided to release an unfinished product for some reason. This isn't that surprising though, as Niantic has had a history of pushing updates before they are ready or even tested. Now, this update has sparked a lot of debate, including political debates regarding gender and identity. So this has actually gotten a lot of attention from many non-Pokemon GO channels, and I honestly don't remember the last time I saw non-players covering this game.
Why would someone do this? I don't know, man. Like, I mean, this has got to be like a mistake, right?
Now, I'm going to try and cover this on a more objective level. You guys are free to voice your own opinions in the comment section down below, but I will say that any hate speech will not be tolerated. You can objectively dislike these updates for a wide number of reasons, but using it as a way to direct hate towards others is not okay. That being said though, let's talk about some of these changes now. So let's start off with the skin tones, which were clearly unfinished and somewhat exclusive. Now the reason I say that is because we used to have a lot more tan skin tones available, and now you basically just have to choose between white and dark skin tones. Like, there's no in between there, which is kind of exclusive if you ask me. Now, one additional detail I want to add is that the shading has not been done properly on these skin tones. If you actually go through and select on a few different skin tones, you can tell that some of them are a lot more polished than others. So again, just another reason that this update was incomplete and it shouldn't have been pushed. Now you can basically say the same thing with the hairstyles as well. They're obviously not polished, and the original hairstyle had a lot more line work for the detail within the hair as well as highlights. If we take a look at some of the new hairstyles that we got, like, yeah, some of them look a little bit more well done, but others definitely look like they weren't polished and they weren't ready to go. So while I am glad that we got new hairstyles, a lot of them really do feel incomplete. Not to mention that some of the hairstyles do clip with many of the hats, so this isn't exactly the best update to roll out if they're not even going to fit properly on the avatar outfits. Although to be fair, Niantic has not really been great about this in the past either, so this is nothing new. The next thing that we're going to go over is the strong lack of female representation among the avatars. So it seems like Niantic was going for a more gender-neutral avatar, which definitely missed the mark here. So in my opinion, this was an effort to be more inclusive, but it had the opposite effect. It actually ended up being exclusive because now female body types are no longer included in the avatars. Now there is a slider that actually helps change your body proportion for weight and height, but this still doesn't give female avatars the right body structure, if that makes sense. I know it does to a lot of players, so I'm just going to leave it there, but yeah, the body proportions and overall the female body type for the avatars is more exclusive than inclusive in my opinion. Now finally, one of the last things we're going to go over is the avatar outfits do not fit properly or even look good anymore. So considering that many players spent money on these avatar items, they kind of feel like they're owed refunds now because they're not what they originally bought. Some players have even bought masks and larger items to actually hide their new face and body proportions. Now with all that being said guys, according to the community manager for Niantic, they claim to be taking all constructive feedback for the avatar designs, but from what we know about Niantic, whoever is at the top making these decisions, they care more about their personal vision rather than what the community has to say about these avatars. So while I do want to be optimistic that things will get better in the future, it truly is unpredictable. Next up, we're going to go over an interview now from JRE Seawolf. He is actually one of Pokemon GO's PvP journalists, if you guys are unfamiliar with his work, and he was actually able to get in touch with one of Niantic's beta testers. So this is actually a small group of about 1,000 people who will help out with the testing of all Niantic games. The link to the full interview is going to be linked in the description down below, and I do highly recommend reading it yourself, but we're going to be covering some of the highlights in this video, so let's go through those right now. JRE says, thanks for agreeing to do a quick interview on this hot topic. JD says, you're welcome, thanks for having me. Since Niantic has been MIA for so long, it kind of feels like the right time to share some behind the scenes stuff. Excellent. So JRE then asks, what can you tell me about this feedback server? How is it set up? How long has it been around? And how do you actually become a part of it? So JD says it's a large sample of players, around 1,000, to best represent all types of players, from new casual players to day one hardcore daily grinders. Any non-active players are usually replaced on an occasional basis, and this Niantic group is not limited to Pokemon GO. It's pretty much utilized for everything Niantic. So it's been around for over 2 years, and it's set up by Niantic themselves. I'm going to skip some of this interview and go straight down to the avatar update. So JRE then asks, now coming to the current time, when did the avatar update begin being discussed, and what was requested of the participants in the server? So JD says questionnaires relating to this started over a year ago, with full beta testing 3 to 4 months ago. This timeline definitely makes sense, as many players in Pokemon GO did get this update early, but it wasn't rolled out to the majority of the player base until recently. So JRE then asks, how was that feedback received? Were there any changes made based on the feedback? So JD then says, there is very little improvement / change since the beta version to what we all have now. It was definitely a surprised to see them announcing the full rollout date when we were still on what was thought to be an unpolished beta version, which turns out is what we all got at the end. So that is quite interesting, isn't it? They ended up getting the feedback, and they just ended up deciding to roll out what was supposed to be an unpolished beta version. JRE then asked what is being solicited from the participants now after the avatar update was released as is, and a new round of feedback is being requested. JD then says no formal requests for further studies or feedbacks have been made to suggest that they're looking to do any major updates to these avatars besides fixing the many genuine glitches/errors. I'm assuming that has to do with clipping and maybe body proportions. I don't even know for sure on that note. The group has been vocal for their disappointment with this rollout, with one participant, quote, ashamed to be part of the study when this is the result. And they go on to say that these are unsolicited feedbacks, meaning that they were not asked for in a formal setting and are not going to be compensated for providing additional feedback. JRE finally asks, so overall it looks like while the calls for feedback go out on the server, the communication channel is one way and those providing feedback do not hear anything back and are left waiting to see what comes out just like the rest of us. And at least with the avatar update, the feedback was seemingly not considered. Does that sum it up? JD then goes on to finally say, yes, very much so. At the start, there was some back and forth discussions and feedbacks with the staff members on the server, but they're frustrated too when upcoming test study features go live without tests being conducted or certain ones getting constantly delayed before going live again without the server having a chance to conduct tests/feedback. So they stopped announcing studies of features ahead of time and gradually communication from what was in the server became zero. JD then goes on to say that you do kind of feel sorry for those working under these conditions and higher management will basically just do what they want and drive data to fit their own vision. That is quite the statement right there. Higher management will do what they want and drive data to fit their own vision. If that doesn't describe Niantic to a T, man, I don't know what will. JRE finally concludes by saying thanks again for your time and insights and all the best to you moving forward. Let's hope Niantic listens this time. So basically, long story short, it seems like a lot of employees at Niantic do have the players' best interests in mind and would rather not push updates when they are clearly still in the beta stage, but the higher-ups at the company are the ones who ultimately make the calls and they don't really seem to care about the players' opinions all that much. So pretty much just some corporate scumbags who just want your money. I'm pretty much going to quote this from here on out, guys. Higher management will do what they want and drive data to fit their own vision. My goodness. Alright, that's definitely going in the thumbnail. So now we have to ask ourselves, will it actually get better from here? And the answer that I have is yeah, most likely. So Niantic does seem tone deaf at times, but they do care about one thing: money. And initially when this update came out, my avatar definitely made me not want to play this game, so I can understand why people do not want to open their app currently. Avatar customization has always been an important aspect of this game for many players, including myself. Now Niantic has also been making some bad in-game decisions lately on top of this, so I'm sure players aren't really spending as much money right now on Pokemon Go. This is a good thing though, because it means that Niantic has to do something, because the one thing that they actually care about is being affected. Speaking of, the final thing that we're going to go over to end off this video is Niantic's recent decision to move the option to buy PokeCoins to the very top of the shop. Since 2016, this option has always been at the very bottom of the shop, but for the first time in 8 years, guys, they moved it to the very top. For those of you guys who are a little bit unfamiliar with marketing techniques, this is definitely a strong one from Niantic to try and get players to spend even more money on the game. Ever since the remote raid nerf, Niantic has definitely not been making as much money on the game because they have been pushing a lot more in-game tickets, pretty much like a ton of different ways to get money out of players to kind of make up for their loss in revenue from those remote raid pass sales. It was the most backwards thing to do, and it just feels extremely money grabby right now. Honestly, they could have just tweaked the remote raid changes and made it a little bit more realistic for players, but they are so stuck on doing things their way that it has got to this point. Unfortunately, as a content creator for this game, it is a little bit worrying that Niantic has kind of been making some bonehead decisions lately, but usually things do pick up around Go Fest time, so I'm assuming that June/July for Pokemon Go should be better. But yeah, overall, we had a good start to 2024, and now it looks like we're kind of going in the opposite direction for Pokemon Go. Kind of unfortunate, but as always, guys, let me know your own thoughts in the comment section down below, and if you guys do want me to cover more updates on this topic specifically, let me know as well. But other than that, that's pretty much going to do it for this one. If you guys still want to check out some more content, I'm going to recommend these two videos right here. But before you go, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you all real soon in the next one.